Welcome to Realm Painters. In today's video, I'll be covering the Gutter Runners, specifically their little leader guy. I have actually decided this will be my last tutorial for the rat spearhead. I just realized all of the rats kind of look similar, so I'm like, I feel like this one may be good enough for now. However, if you are wanting to see more tutorials for specific rats, just let me know, because we'll definitely do more if you guys want them, but just so far at the moment I think this will be the last one for now. As always, if you can like and subscribe, we would really appreciate that, and if there's any other spearheads or combat patrols you guys want us to do, just let us know. We'll be happy to do them. I think we still have quite a few that we haven't done yet, so just let us know. We'd really appreciate it. But other than that, let's get to painting. First up, let's prime the model with black primer. I personally use Citadel Chaos Black. Now we can start on the skin. Let's go ahead and base coat his legs, arm, and head with Steel Legion DRAB. Then let's go with BUGMANS Glow, base coat the tail, nose, and inside of their ears. Now that we have the base coat done, we can start with the highlighting process first, using about 50-50 mix of Steel Legion DRAB and RAKARTH Flesh. We'll add these highlights by painting small first streaks throughout the body, on top of the arms, knuckles, and top of the eyes and mouth. We can then do a light highlight on the fur using RAKARTH Flesh and add smaller highlights on top of the first highlight on the coat, as well as edge highlighting the ears and brow bone. Then with a mix of BUGMANS Glow and RAKARTH, we can paint the upper ridges throughout the whole tail, as well as the top of the nose and wrinkles in the ear. Next up, let's paint the teeth by base coating them in ZANDRI dust. Then with MORGHAST bone, highlight the top half of the teeth. And now that the teeth are done, we can go ahead and base coat his claws in RHINOX hide before highlighting the top with DOOMBULL brown. And all that we have to do now is use some WRAITHBONE to dot in the eyes. And the skin and fur is done. Now onto the clothing. We can start by base coating this cloak and gauntlets in ABBADON black. I recommend doing this if you had painted onto the cloak with other paints from the previous steps. Then use ESHIN Gray to base coat his pants. Next we can start highlighting the clothes, first using Dark Reaper to edge highlight the cloak and gauntlets. I also want to include the highlights on the edges where the different scraps of fabric are sewn together. Then use Rust Gray to add thinner highlight on top of the previous Dark Reaper highlight, making sure you still see the darker highlight under the Rust Gray. Next we use a mix of ESHIN Gray and DAWNSTONE to start highlighting the pants. I usually put this on the top part of the thigh and the bottom pant legs. Then with full DAWNSTONE, add in smaller highlights on top of the previous highlight mix. And now we can continue onto their wrappings, both in their limbs and under the chin. First we'll base coat the one under the chin with Burgundy. Then with a mix of Burgundy and SLAANESH Gray, highlight the creases and edge of the fabric. Next we can base coat the wrappings on the limbs with MORGHAST bone. Then with ZANDRI dust, we can shade the middle of the wrapping, which I think is easier to do rather than edge highlighting the top and bottom edges with a lighter color. And other than that, the clothes are done. Next up, we can start on the armor sections. First, let's use IRONBREAKER to base coat all the metallic sections, including the rings on the tail, the knee pads, the shoulder pad, rivets on his gauntlet, knife handle and handguard, and lastly the helmet. Then I like to use LEADBELCHER on the blades on his helmet and knife, making sure you avoid the goop on the tip of the blade. Now we can start washing all the metallics. Let's start with washing all IRONBREAKER sections with REIKLANDFLESSHADE. Once that fully dries, we can wash over the Reikland with SERAPHIM Sepia, just to get that grungy but slightly yellow finish. And now we can wash the LEADBELCHER blades on top with just NULN oil. Then we can use Beltane Green to wash two sections near the edges on the top of the helmet blade. Making sure you don't pull it too heavily, we just want a subtle gradient change. Once that's fully dry, we can go ahead with RUNEFANG Steel to edge highlight both the knife and helmet blade. Now all that's left on the weapons is the knife handle and the goop. Let's start with the handle by base coating it in KHORNE red. Then give that a wash in REIKLANDFLESSHADE. Once that's dry, you can edge highlight with MEPHISTON red. Now onto the goop, we can base coat the whole thing with WARPSTONE glow. We can then start the gradient by adding MOOT green on the top sections that attach to the blade. Next we can use CALIBAN green to darken the lower sections where it begins to form into drops. And lastly, we can use a mix of white, which you can use any white that you have, but I'll be using Vallejo white, to mix with MOOT green to highlight the top edges and drop highlights. And all the weapons and armor are complete. Now onto the last section, which will be the post. I want to start on the wood first by base coating it in DRYAD bark. Then with AGRAX Earthshade, wash the wood. Once fully dry, we can highlight the grain by mixing Steel Legion DRAB and DRYAD bark to highlight the wood grain and corner edges. Next, we can base coat the metallic trim and spike with LEADBELCHER. Then give that LEADBELCHER a wash with REIKLANDFLESSHADE. Once dry, we can do another wash over the silver with AGRAX Earthshade. I like adding this more near the rivets and the intersection of the spike. Once that's dry, if you want, we can use some watered down hyaluronic oxide and paint it on the bottom section of the spike and around the rivets. And your gutter runner is complete. I hope you liked today's video. Painting rats have been a pretty fun process. I can tell it's going to take a very long time before I actually get to finishing all my rats, so wish me luck on that. But if you guys are wanting to see other spearheads or combat patrols, just let us know down in the comments below. As I said earlier, there's still a few combat patrols and spearheads we haven't done yet, so if you're really interested in seeing any of those, or just any other random models that we haven't done yet, we would really appreciate you guys letting us know. And as always, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in another realm.